Welcome to the Heartwork podcast, where we delve into stories, struggles, and triumphs of entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal growth. I'm Dr. Sarah.
And I'm Dr. Marisa. We're here to guide practitioners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and those just navigating the complexities of life on a journey of discovery that explores the dance between passion and strategy, heart and hustle.
With candid conversations, insightful interviews, and plenty of laughs, get ready to uncover how leading with heart can transform your business and life. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Heartwork podcast. Today, we're going to continue the conversation about team and leading imperfect people, because it's not always about what comes in the black and white of what we think leadership should look like, but there's a lot of gray space in between that, and navigating how to inspire your team, approach hard conversations with ease and with grace, and leave room for curiosity so that not only you can continue to grow as a leader through different opportunities and circumstances, but also that your team can continue to grow as leaders, especially as your team grows. Like, we have a smaller team. You, Sarah, have a larger team, and you have team that's leading team. And I'm just starting to navigate that space. When you're continuing to encourage someone to handle a potential situation that wasn't as productive or healthy in the office or didn't align as much with core values, us having to inspire that in our team leaders can be a little bit tricky. In those conversations, I have always loved more of the Socratic method of like, walk me through how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can almost find that stuck point. And instead of saying, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, right? And like them having to memorize it, you're almost giving them the opportunity to critically think through why they're doing the steps that they're doing. Right. And therefore, when a situation comes up that they're unsure how to handle, or they're like, oh, I know I learned this, but I can't quite remember. It's like going back to hold on, well, what's the purpose of this? Okay, what do I want to do? If I go this way, it would be this outcome. If I go this way, it would be this outcome. Okay, yeah, no, we need to do it this way. Mm-hmm. And then they almost continue to reteach and relearn it themselves every time that situation comes up. And so oftentimes as a leader, it is just easier to send off a quick message like, hey, make sure you're doing this, or hey, make sure it's that way, or hey, make sure it's that way. But part of training and managing and leading your team is continuing to teach them how to navigate and do that themselves versus telling them what it's supposed to be. And then without reason or purpose, right? So as we expand this conversation into inspiring our team to do things, or perhaps we make a decision about a direction that we want our office or our business to go, and now we have to share that with our team. If you just tell the team, we're changing all our pricing tomorrow, or all of a sudden we're doing all telephone consultations and not in-person consultations, or just some random other thing, right? And they don't know the why, they don't know the purpose, they don't know the heart. Then it's like getting them behind something, changing something, learning something new, navigating that process might look very different than if you are problem solving together and coming up with a solution together, or even if you've done that individually, saying, listen, this was my thought process. Here's how A led to B led to C. Is that fair? Inviting them into like the intention and the purpose and the why behind the how, I always feel like comes with better outcomes.
It's so freaking true.
Yeah. I have worked in places where it's, again, you are just told, or it's like, you did this wrong, you can't do this until you retrain and test out with me about it. Like, and it's just so not, I don't want to say dehumanizing, but it's just like, it's like a little knife in your gut, you just like don't feel good about it. Like, oh, this was taken away from me now, versus just empowered. And we're all human. Like, there's going to be mistakes. For sure. At least in like my business or our businesses, as a chiropractic assistant, there really is no like specific thing that they're in charge of that would be so egregious of a mistake that it would like, oh my gosh, your business is going up in flames. Like they charge the wrong amount to someone's account, or like it's posted under someone else's account for someone else. Like, okay, maybe you run someone else's credit card instead of another person's and they have a random charge. Well, okay, you can void it. You can call them, explain the situation, like, navigate it. Other than just handling a person in front of you and just navigating the complexities of the human condition and serving others in times where they might not also be at their best, like a quote unquote mistake that my team member would make, they know and they are empowered enough to know that like if they do something on the fly of their pants because they had to, it's going to be okay. And if we decide to, if it exposes a system or a process or a culture thing that we didn't see, then it's just a beautiful opportunity to like create a new system or training or opportunity to create a new value, like, and core value that we have. We just recently had to deal with this in a situation where we've had some practice members, because it's busier, just kind of like have to reschedule some appointments and stuff, and just navigating the communication and conversation about that. Like, if people show up early for a scheduled appointment time and then they get upset because it's busy during that time that they weren't initially scheduled for, like, okay, it's time for us to get a little bit more houndy now that we're getting busier on like being more direct on, you should stick with your appointment time. You can always call us or text us, and if you're around the area, to come in sooner or come in later, and we'll see if we can accommodate it. But just showing up when we require appointments is a little bit more challenging. Yeah. But again, those opportunities, they are just that. They're opportunities, right? For you to grow as a team, grow as a leader, and then for them to also problem solve. And I feel like when team members problem solve with you, they take more ownership just naturally in the success and in the forward momentum of the business.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love it, because what you're providing that team, though, like what you're saying, even the permission for them to do something that maybe not be within your system or be out of the norm, you're giving the permission for them in the first place. And that, you know, that they probably know, hey, I may not have done this correct, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not just going to get fired for the one small little thing, right? Like, you're creating an environment that is going to be so much more a partnership and opportunity in that. So when like, I think about leadership is so much more than just like, again, like X plus Y equals Z. It's not just a black and a white journey. Mm-hmm. And it really, because like you said, we work with the human condition, and we work with people that have lives that have their crap, just like we have our crap. And I love, like, what I've come to learn is leadership is truly leading from a space of giving permission to provide other people to lead, and ultimately almost like look like you're not leading. Like, some of the best leaders that we know, they lead and it almost doesn't even look like they're the leader in the room, but they just walk with an authority. They walk with this grace, this fluidity. They walk with this confidence that is leadership. And I have a lot of people that ask me a lot of like, how do you become a better leader? How do I make my team like become leaders? And I'm like, it's not so much the how, it's the who that you're leading at the same time. And then really discovering what it is that person that really, what they enjoy, what is it that they get geeked out about, you know, and like, what is it that they value, and what is it that they actually like want as well within your practice, so that they can add their gifts as well, or within your business. And so leadership truly is this like, it's this beautiful dichotomy of like working with humans and just loving getting to do that. I love this too. Like, if you think about just like, if we look at just like the biblical aspect of it, truly, Jesus never forced anyone to do anything. He asked questions the most, right? And so like, that's one of the first things that I've started to learn is like, I would rather pose a question and pose a thought or an opportunity to somebody and get their feedback, and then give an opportunity so that I can listen. One of the biggest strengths, I think, of a lot of leaders is being able to listen and hear through the bullshit sometimes, and hear through the crap that's coming, but ultimately hear what that heart is saying to them in that middle. And sometimes it's like, you got to filter it. Sometimes you got to like weed your way through what somebody's trying to tell you. While also like, if you're just talking at them and you're just telling them all these things to do, you're going to miss the mark of that. Then you're not going to hear what the actual person is telling you, because maybe there's a way deeper, convoluted thing that's happening. So we had this come up in our just practice recently. And there's also this beautiful thing, because humans, we all have our gifts. We all have our potential. We all have like the things that that make us super unique and make us this place to which you provide so much life to the world. And I have a team member that is literally the most vibrant person. You walk into her space and she just radiates joy. While also, that is one of her also, unfortunately, Achilles heel as well. And she knows it. We've talked about it, because there's a lot of times what will happen is, because she is this like loud, boisterous, joyful human, it can also distract and detract away from other people, and make other people feel like they're not enough if it's always about her. And they can make it feel like she is kind of steamrolling over people, instead of having the conscientious place of saying, hey, I'm with a team, I'm with people, that type of thing. And so, especially when it comes to team dynamics. And we had a conversation. And so this is how I've helped lead my team as we've grown to where I'm not just the one doing all the leadership. Now I lead my leadership team. My leadership team then goes and leads my team and the rest of the team. And so one of the things that I posed to my leadership team was, okay, so we saw that there was this offense that happened in our office. There was something that I felt incredibly dishonored as the leader. It was not a great situation that happened. And in that moment, I was like, the team knew that I was like feeling a certain way about something, but then I was like, I can't just, we got patience to see. I took a moment to myself and just was like, all right, I got to just sit through this, let it be what it is. And then I literally, which was kind of beautiful on myself. Sometimes I I don't know if you ever do this, and sometimes it's hard to like let something drop into where it's like you can just go about your like rest of your freaking weekend. So this happened on a Thursday and I had the weekend to like process it. I was so freaking proud of myself. I processed it that day. I didn't think about it the rest of the weekend. And I came to my leadership team. I texted them Monday morning and just said, hey, this is what happened. I felt incredibly dishonored through this situation. Per the situation, I would love to pose some questions to you guys. And I would love for you to observe the following. And so I just posed to them, like, we notice these types of things just culturally at times to where somebody may do something because it's just like their natural thing, but it may make somebody else feel incredibly, again, dishonored, maybe not safe. Maybe they feel like this person's talking about them or whatever it may be. And I just asked them to just, hey, I'd like for you just to observe yourself and observe your team the rest of this next 2 weeks. We're going to meet in 2 weeks. I'd like for you to observe it. And I want you to process, be aware of how it makes you feel. If somebody's coming in and giving gossip or grief or like whatever it may be, and like maybe they're just lax on the job, they're given like complaints or whatever it may be, I want you to observe how it makes you feel and then also how it affects everybody else around you. And then also like, because when you think about an Achilles heel, if that's actually happening, that can take everything to the dark side almost comparable to the positive. And so why is it that in that moment, would you not, as their leader, step in and actually correct what is happening in that moment or have a conversation later? So I would love for you to again observe how that makes you feel and why is it that you feel that way, that you can't step in and be that leader. We then had a follow-up conversation and I posed some questions. I wanted to hear their feedback because for me, like as their leader, like I can't just, like you were saying, sometimes you just can't come in and just be like, you need to do it this way. It needs to look like this. It's black and white. And if you don't do this, then you're gone or you're written up or whatever you may be. Sometimes that works for some people, but for our practice and for us, it's just not how I run things. And so I wanted to create basically a teaching opportunity for my team. So they came back, we had a conversation and so I got to listen to them. There was a lot of insecurities about friendships, about like leading friends and then creating tension. If I would come in and have this conversation with this person because they are slow to pick up a clipboard to go take a new person, like it's going to make them feel a certain way. And I'm afraid that they're not going to like me anymore. And another one was a place of, I want to be able to be an authority, but also at the same time, like I'm not there all the time. So I'm trying to figure out like, how do I best have an authority when I don't hear all the things and like all this type of stuff. And so there was just a lot of insecurities, right? So I got to hear from my leaders insecurities, but then I also got to speak into that and got to say like, look, this is what I see in your potential. I see this, I want this for you, and I trust you to lead in this place. These are also our core values. This is who we are. This is why we do this. If this doesn't align in our life anymore, we are taking a stance of no tolerance, but we're going to lead through their potential. Because ultimately in the day, this is all about people. This is all about humans. But at the same time, like we can't just let something like this happen for the sake of it's going to derail everything, or it could 4 months later, all of a sudden we're built up with resentment and bitterness and now we're just mad. Like, I'm not letting that happen. So we as a leadership crew have an opportunity to be able to call this forward. So we set from that meeting, we basically then set action points. They had conversations they got to go do with certain individuals. They had actionable points that they were going to accomplish within the next couple of weeks. And we were going to have a feedback loop afterwards. So, okay, how did it go? Did you reach any like stuck points? How was the actual like conversation? What from those specific follow-ups, what is your next follow-up? Because I think one of the things too, I've learned that leadership, sometimes it's like really easy to like go in and have a beautiful conversation, or you give constructive criticism and then you kind of wash your hand of it, but it doesn't always necessarily change right away. Behaviors don't change unless something in the heart changes.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
right? Like it doesn't
Mhm.
like it doesn't always just snap. So you need continued coaching and you need continued movement for the feedback. So something that we've just learned, and then it's been beautiful. This is over the course now. It's like that was about 2 months ago, and my leaders have learned so much. We've had literally a rectification of the issue, and the person that had this thing happen, she's completely stepped into so much more. She's adding more value. She's actually leading into team, and which is absolutely incredible. And it came from just one little scenario, but it's given so much more opportunity. And so when we talk about like leading from the gray or leading from a place of trusting yourself and the human that's in front of you, that's what we mean. Like sometimes it's not always just black and white. I know you've had scenarios. It's like we both have had scenarios where it's like
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you just need to make a freaking decision and you can't let something keep going. But these are scenarios where if you have the chance to just like observe, watch, pause, listen, it's going to lead to a lot more opportunity at the same time.
100%. And I think that's why, like listening to you talk, I can just feel it in my soul and feel it in my heart. Like this is why I'm so grateful for opportunities where you get to be surrounded by people who also care about their own personal and professional development. Like when you're the CEO of your business, when you're the top tier like leader of your business, whether it's because you're the owner, whether it's because you're promoted in that, like whatever it is, when you're that head honcho, you don't have the camaraderie in your own business because everyone else is either reporting to you or is looking to you for leadership, but you don't get to like, when you're like in that head honcho position, you don't get to bounce ideas back and forth with someone that's equally in your role unless you are a co-founder, right? Or unless you are a co-CEO or co-leader. And so if you're trying to lead and inspire others to do that and in a healthy way, that's where it comes back to you needing to do that with yourself in a healthy way. Like, Sarah, the reason you've been able to so beautifully address that situation, like it's so inspiring to hear the way that you went about that feeling of dishonor, because someone who wasn't aware of themselves, aware of their feelings, would have very easily snapped at a team and been like, are you guys fucking serious right now? Like, you know the rules. So like, what are we doing? And like, especially when you feel like it comes as an attack to you, it's so easy to attack back, right? Quick and be like, what? WTF?
It's true.
Seriously though, like there are so many moments in my day where something happens and I'm like, WTF?
Yeah.
But you do. This would apply in business. This applies in relationships. It applies with friendships. It applies with family. Taking an observant approach, observant of yourself, observant of them, because sometimes we see the quote unquote attack, but we don't see the person behind it.
Totally.
There's just so much more of health and there's so much more opportunity that comes from that observation than just quickly going to black and white rule, look at the handbook. You guys, page 7, section A, note 1. Thank you. Read the fucking handbook again. I get spicy because it is spicy when you feel like it's your business and you put so much of your heart and soul into it and you're leading people and you inspire them, or maybe someone's been doing really well and you're like, you totally deserve to be bumped up into this leadership, and you're like, I'm going to hand this to you, and you feel like just handing them the role, all of a sudden they like blossomed into the epitome of what that person is in that role. But it doesn't happen that way. Just like we continuously have to blossom and go into that role. I dealt with a situation with a team member while you were here in town visiting with me, and you helped me approach that situation from more of a curious, questioning, wondering place versus a like, I'm offended place, or like a WTF place, which allowed me an opportunity to have a conversation with one of my team that allowed us to get closer to each other, that allowed us to understand each other more, that allowed us to continue to frame what leadership means in our office, because we're new and we are budding with that. I am growing with that. I've had 2 practices, but I didn't have my first one for very long. And I've observed and I've learned from other people and been in other places to know what is healthy. And sometimes when you go to different businesses or you go to different places, that's what you're learning more. You learn more about how you don't want to lead, which then encourages you to get curious and reach out for resources and ways to grow, to learn how you actually do want to lead. But nobody teaches you this stuff. And while inspiring others or having that dynamic personality may come naturally for some people. That still doesn't mean that you're the best leader. And just because you're good at your profession or what your quote unquote like degree is, doesn't mean that you are able to actually have the role of like business owner, leader, CEO to scale your business, to grow it to the place that you want it to grow, right? Sometimes, especially in healthcare and service, like you may be a great practitioner, you may be a great esthetician, you may be a great whatever you are, but that doesn't mean that you should necessarily own your own business. It takes a whole other level of entrepreneurship, CEO, leading, self-awareness, growth. And so just having the opportunity to continue to invest. This is why it's so important to invest in people, in coaches, in leaders. I mean, we do Heartwork literally every week with our talk therapy with our personal coaches. We talk to each other and navigate different complexities and situations in business from different perspectives and just backgrounds. We do this with colleagues when we network and go to conferences with other people in those same roles. We put our CAs in rooms with other CAs. We put us in rooms with other leaders, associates in rooms with other associates in practice, so that, again, you can have that sense of camaraderie around navigating tricky situations, because it is constantly going to evolve, constantly going to grow. And you're always going to be presented with some kind of new situation, because life isn't predictable. And the only thing that stays the same is the fact that it always changes. So like, you're just constantly evolving. And if we don't continue to grow ourselves, lead ourselves, understand our hearts, it's going to continue to get more challenging as things continue to move forward and life evolves and you want your business to grow and you want your team to grow. If you don't have the skills and the curiosity and the empathy behind the fact that you are working with other humans. And it's so easy to just attack when something doesn't quite go the way that you would think in the black and white, versus getting curious about what that gray space is and then having a beautiful opportunity to evolve from it. We had a situation in the office even just yesterday where it was busy. It was a holiday week. There were multiple people in there, everyone trying to get through because, you took 4 days of business and scrunched them into 2.5. And we had a specific appointment where someone was coming in for like their, next set of recommendations, next set of movement forward in our process. And typically we send them a video to watch ahead of time where they can learn about all their progress. I, as the doc, go over everything with them. I give them new recommendations. They come in, get their final adjustment from their previous set of recommendations. And then my team will come in and present them like with what those new recommendation care value exchange, like what the new pricing and what their plan actually looks like, get them scheduled and get them moving on in whatever their, next set is. I was starting to get hot because I saw that this person was checked into the system, but I didn't actually see them coming to a table. And so I started getting nervous, like, am I taking too long? Like, am I not being efficient enough with my adjusting? Like, is there something wrong? Did they get taken off of the queue list? Like, are they going to get missed? Are they going to leave? Are they going to be upset? Right? Because there was just a lack of communication. And all of a sudden, when the person ended up actually in a room on a table, I was slacking my team like, hey, were they waiting for 30 minutes? Like, am I taking too much time? Like, did they get recommendations? I saw them at the front desk handing over a credit card. So like, what's the did something not go through with payment today? Like, what's going on? And they were like, no, you were busy. We had a family of 5, a family of 3, 2 other adults, 6 people in the waiting room with 3 other kids running around. And they're like, we found out that this person didn't watch the video. So we put them in a room, had them watch the video, went over the recommendations and the value exchange because you had told them what that was in the video. They signed on and moved forward. Now they're just ready for their adjustment. She's ready to rock and roll. And I was like, y'all are the fucking shit.
It's amazing.
I was like, thank you, because that was super helpful. One, right? That they bid up that time. And all I said was, that's amazing. Thank you so much. In the future, will you send me a message and just communicate that to me? Because I started getting so nervous that I would have to start rushing through because they were just on the what we call the Z list, the queue list for so long. And they're like, yeah, totally got that. And then we got to talk about it later. Like, that was so amazing. Let's create a system around if that happens in the future. This is a new process we can do. We had never had that process happen, but my team just came up with it. Was like, cool, you go into a room that buys Dr. M some time to continue to get through some big families, and then she'll be ready to go. And it won't even feel like she's been waiting.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing, right? But again, when your team feels empowered and feels trusted and feels like there is a safety net, they're
Hmm.
going to make decisions like that, whether it worked out positively or not. If it wasn't, even if I said, I'm not really for that, like we have a system that we want to do, this is the reason why, we could have discussed at that point. But because they felt so empowered, they were able to come up with a solution that just made sense for the moment and what was going on in the office at the time. And it was a great solution. And if that happens in the future, we'll do it again.
Totally. Like how freaking
So,
amazing.
yeah, wonderful. But again, like if a team doesn't feel inspired to do that,
Right.
then they would just keep her in the list. Wouldn't have even asked her if she watched the video if they didn't care or weren't curious. And then
Hmm.
I would have to find out in the rooms and be like, okay, well, I can't present you Recs now until you watch the video. So you know why the Recs are what they are. It would have created a whole chaotic situation. But they just handled it like champs.
Amazing.
So
I mean,
the
that's the
leading a
beautiful.
team is hard.
It is hard.
And when you start having a team that's big enough where you have people that get promoted into leadership roles that are, while they may still be on a tier underneath a CEO, they're now leaders for those other CAs that are in the office.
Hmm.
And it does create complexities with the feelings of friendship, camaraderie, especially if people started at the same,
Hmm.
right? And now you have others that are potentially leading or in a quote unquote managerial role or in charge of productivity, assignments, things being done properly, movement and flow in the office. And you have to have those tough conversations. The insecurities of that person can come through. And if that person is not encouraged to do some work and to self-evaluate by you asking curious questions, they may continue to operate from that insecurity for a long time, which won't continue to promote the team as a whole.
I mean, like you talked about this, but the place to which we have the opportunity as leaders to know that I have to lead myself first so
Mm-hmm.
that I can lead my team to
Yeah.
encourage them to do the same.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because if they're not taking care of themselves and they're not in like situations where they're able to understand where some of their stuff comes from or get curious about themselves, they are going to only continue to go back toward
Right.
our woundings and toward the stuff that basically was there in the first place. And so
Right.
it really has been. I mean, like, I love when you brought that up about just like being around people and like being around people that can like really support you. I mean, I have freaking 3 coaches right now, like the people in my life right now, like, it's like, and I've been doing it for a long time. And it's like, but it's helped me because I know that who I am literally bleeds into my business.
Yep.
And if I am like bleeding in a negative way, my team's going to feel that. My community is going to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I'm still freaking human. So I'm going to do it at some point. Right. So it's like, it's just life. It's going to happen. While also the opportunity that comes with knowing it's like, if I can take care of myself and I can encourage that for me, I can also encourage that for other people. I mean, that's the culture and that's the like type of environment I at least want to create. And I want to inspire for other people to create because it's so it's a lot more fun doing it that way versus just like, you can't like do your job well. So then crap,
Totally.
like, it's not fun then.
The WTF, instead of it being like, why the freak becomes like, whoa, that's fantastic. Or like,
Exactly.
whoa, that's fun. That's what the
Oh,
WTF, you did amazing. That was so great.
yeah. I mean, because even like
like
what you said, like your team yesterday took something with that like literally flew with it and just like, we're going to just do this because this was the best thing. It's like they freaking rocked out of its park, even if you were still navigating and trying to figure out like what's going on. But
I don't even know if I would have come up with that. If they told me, hey, this is the situation, I don't even know if I would have been like, well, okay, we'll just adjust her today, send her home, and she can come next time for her Recs or something. Like I don't even know if I would have been that creative. So like, this is why we love having people around us. But
100%.
it comes with the who that you're hiring, right? And we've talked about hiring and the process of that and picking critical thinkers and like helping to inspire that. But it comes with the safety that you provide as a leader for your team. And then it also comes with continuously learning how to lead and navigate them to lead in a way that they're making decisions and moving forward, knowing the core values of the business. So whatever potentially unpredictable situation comes to light, they can still operate from that place of knowing, well, these are our values. This is what we stand for. This is what our purpose and our mission is in our community. So how does this next decision play a role in that? And when you get really good at that stuff, it happens in an instant.
Gosh, I love having this type of conversation. This is like what I like get so geeked about. I love leadership and I love empowering people. And helping them see the potential in themselves, but also helping them see how they can best lead and really celebrate the human that's in front of them.
Well, guys, this podcast episode was absolutely loaded with some good golden nuggets. If you did enjoy hearing what we had to say today, please like, subscribe, and share our podcast and social media so that we can continue to help inspire other leaders to grow into the best version of themselves, uncover in their hearts, and moving forward in an emotionally healthy and productive way. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.